in case.
I hear steps coming outside.
Oh yeah, something crunchy this way comes.
Go your own way, stones and shadows bite, willows whisper of darkness deep and wide. In the forest, there is no place to hide. Strange paths. Tonight I fear that I will not survive the dying of a light.
All right. Sorry, I'll have to cut this out, but I was having a little bit of a hard time pulling up my drive to get my intro. Thank you for your patience. Thank you. I had you at hello.
Hey, Tolan Velvari, and I'm spacing your name right now. Like the Jared name I know.
Yishka.
You're up. Yeah, thank you, Yishka. I listened to the episode on YouTube, and it was absolutely hilarious. I loved it. I was so sorry that I missed it, but it came across very well on YouTube.
All right.
Yesterday's. Last night's.
This is The Dying of the Light, Season 3 of the Starfall Collective. The Starfall Collective is a collaborative storytelling group using the Dungeons & Dragons game system as a vehicle for creating rich and compelling stories in a fictional world we've been developing together for a while. You can find out more about the collective, as well as the stories we're telling, at thestarfallcollective.com. We're back with a new episode. Let's find out who's in this episode. I'm Sir Robert, a father and entrepreneur, and I'm the host of this season's story. With me tonight are a few friends playing the characters in this drama. Please say your name, something about yourself if you'd like, and a brief description of the character you're playing. Why don't we start with you, Erin Joy?
I'm Erin Joy. I'm playing Neno. She's not picky about the name, so Nano, Nenny, Memmy, it's all good. She's old, but not really. She's religious, but oh no, really.
All right. And Matt?
This is Matthew Talamini. I'm a writer and web developer based in Providence, Rhode Island. You can find my stuff at MatthewTalamini.com. That's Matthew, TALAMINI.com. I'm playing the shirtless wizard, Diamondback.
Good. And Patrick?
Hello, I'm Patrick. I am playing the half-orc Toll, and I am hoping that that my volume is good. And
Genuine question, and not too what?
too loud.
Okay, it was not too loud. Good. Why don't we do Josh? Why don't we do you next?
Hi, my name's Josh. I am also a web developer and a Bigfoot enthusiast in Augusta, Georgia. And tonight I will be playing Inkatink, a Kinku who is a ravenoid humanoid, but also a little bit dragonoid. And he has many voices, but not one. And he is trying to be brave and stern and of use.
And Josh, would you say that you are a Bigfoot enthusiast and fan? Could you be one and not the other? Like, what if he's a jerk, but he's still really interesting?
Yeah, there are a lot of enthusiasts who are not fans and are in fact themselves jerks online. So I try to be a fan, an enthusiast, a lobbyist for the hard forensic evidence for the fact of Bigfoot, and also just a general encouragement to the community in the process.
All right. Sounds good. Dwight, how about you?
Hey, I'm playing Belvari, the full human 16-year-old.
Can you turn your mic up just a little, Dwight?
It is all the way at the top. I don't know what
Okay.
to do about that.
No worries. We'll see what we can do. Sounds good. And
Hey, my name's Jared. I'm playing Yoshka, the Bard.
all right. Jacob can't be with us tonight. He plays Talid, a distressed young man who is out of his element and apparently in everyone else's. So, see what we can do. All right.
Any better?
I rearranged. Sorry, what's that?
Is that any better? Is that any
I
better?
don't know who said something, but I can't hear it.
I think it was Dwight, and I agree.
I can crank up your volume, guys. That's as loud as I can get on my side for speaker-wise. Speaker sibilance. Okay, so yeah, let's get into it. Previously, on the Dying of the Light, the party found themselves in Sarakan, a foreign town that's strange to their sensibilities. According to the townsfolk, there was a blood night recently, somewhere maybe to the southwest, which emptied the local area of many creatures of the wood. Warned to be quiet during the silent time each night, the party quieted down with the folk of their host hamlet around Darkfall. During the night, the undead of the wood could be heard shambling here and there. The locals seemed not to think anything of it. Around midnight, though, some large, unseen creature could be heard rustling and clattering over the canopy above. It seemed to circle directly above the town for a while, before falling silent, perhaps meandering away. Maybe agitated by the sounds above, the forest's undead began to churn and roil, swarming and stampeding towards the fortified hamlet. In response, the townsfolk rang the heavy iron bell hanging at the town's center. Awakened by the bell and instantly ready, the party took up their magical arms and began to fend off the deathly beasts below. They were stopped quickly by Krafit, the town's leader, who warned them that to destroy the beasts would doom them all. While waiting for the Iron Bell tribute patrol to arrive, two errant townsfolk, a father-daughter pair, returned from the wilds. He, Teko, carried his wounded daughter, Edina. With the help of the heroic Inkatink, the town retrieved them both, as well as the meat deer he dragged behind that would feed them for weeks. He explained that he and Edina had been at the lake. While trying to retrieve a felled bird, she was enticed by the ghostly Baisugen into the lake's edge. He managed to drag her out but not before the White Lady screamed and Edina fell unconscious into Teko's arms. The patrol arrived, led by a Captain Feridov. With a word, his patrol of several dozen rounded up the undead, taking them as tribute, and perhaps despite Diamondback's eagerness to take them on, they left without incident, a chain of ghoulish deer, zombie elk, skeletal badgers, and many, many more in tow. The townsfolk returned to their sleeps and watches, clearly more harrowed by the bell within the town than the undead without. It is the middle of the night still. You would guess you have perhaps 6 hours until dawn. Would you like to go to bed, continue with what you were doing? A little bit of bookkeeping just for a moment. Jared, I mentioned this off air, I'm going to mention it on air. I put your Morka gave you a set of components, a pouch, a sort of gift to let you know that you were welcomed. Those components you can find at the bottom of your component pouch. I don't know if you saw them yet or not. They have spells on them for you. And so you have those available to you. There are quite a few. She was generous. So yeah, anybody want to do anything, feel free. You are, at the moment, standing at the bottom of the town where the white stone floats silently and the bell no longer tolls. If you were to climb 2 platforms, you would be back to your sleeping quarters that they gave you for your whole party. And then several platforms above that is where they were sleeping, as well as there's a rim around the top of the town wall with a path around it. So tell me, what would you like to do here?
Since the leader of the town, shortly after the Iron Bell left, he turned to us and said, "You have been welcome, and you are still welcome for the remainder of the night, but it would be best if you left in the morning." Since Inkatink never really got a chance to talk to this little girl that he saved, he'd like to pluck out some of his own feathers and make a little kind of doll of himself and go and place that outside the living area. He doesn't want to intrude. He knows that she's resting, but he's going to leave that outside of her resting area and head back available sleeping space that he can find and get some rest for the rest of the night.
Okay. I will, by default, assume that you're going to go back to your sleep and watches. The townsfolk seem to have done that already, but if you'd like to do something other than that, just as Inkatink said, feel free to tell me and we'll deal with that. Yeah.
Just one thing Yoshka would do before bed is if Tekkel's down there, say, Tekkel, in our land we have magics to find problems with the sick. Do you know what's wrong with your daughter?
He leans and says, I have no idea. Something that the Baishuzen did. I don't know.
Would you like me to try to take a look?
If you can help her, I brought her for more than a day, and she has not awakened. Just fever or chills. I don't know.
Okay.
Accompanies him. She's already tried what she knows to do, but she wants to see the long-term fruit of what she tried.
Okay.
Well, I was going to, and unless there's anything to report about when we see her, to Neno, I was going to cast Identify on her. Just identifies any magical conditions. Yeah.
Yeah. You cast this, and she seems to be. You see a sort of pale aura of magic that. Your best word for what you're looking at is that it seems hollow, as though she's not all the way present with you here. She doesn't seem to be, just to give you to flesh that out a little, she doesn't seem to be, for example, paralyzed or, deafened in some way. It just, you get this impression that like something's missing.
Diamondback and Neno probably would have had this conversation before, but Diamondback has one component to cast Lesser Restoration.
Okay.
Beak of the fire-beaked eagle. And if Neno had the other components, he probably already would have given her at least a couple of the beak of the fire-beaked eagle. Neno, do you have lesser restoration?
No, looks like I don't.
Okay. Never mind then. I don't know if he would have like.
As he travels. I'm hoping to find components of Revivify. I need to now also look for Lesser Restoration. Sorry, that's...
Oh my God, 1 sec. That's all right. Not you.
It's Revivify.
Revivify, not Revivify. Sure, sounds good too.
All right. And just to read into the record, Lesser Restoration, you touch a creature and can end either one disease or one condition affecting it. The condition can be blinded, deafened, paralyzed, or poisoned. And Revivify is a creature that has died within the last minute. That creature returns to life with a hit point. The spell can't return to life a creature that's died of old age, nor can it restore any missing body parts. But make you whole, not make you whole, can make you well, no, can make you alive. That's what it does.
Can you mend a corpse and then revivify them?
Yeah, we have some precedent for that in our prior goings on with Gulb. Mending, yes, for something like a cut, but I would not let you use mending to regrow a missing finger or something like that. You would have to have the finger and mend. So, okay, so you get up to where the little girl. I say little girl. She's 13, 14 years old. She is sleeping. She feels cold and clammy to the touch. You use your spell. You see she's not all the way there. Anything you want to try to... That's your interpretation of the strange magic you're seeing.
Okay. Well, from just mechanically from what I read of, and I'm totally fine if you're homebrewing this or whatever.
Sure.
If there is some name, it looks like the spell gets to the nature of the magic specifically enough that it's to be named. So if there's some name for me to pass on to them, I do that. Otherwise, I tell them as specifically as I can what this shows. And if it doesn't show the name in general, that'll be good for me to know.
This does not appear to be a spell. There is magic. Sorry, go ahead.
Using identify?
Yeah.
I think that's just for objects.
If you instead touch a creature through the casting, you learn what spells are currently affecting it.
Oh, I see.
It's identify the magic within is the idea.
Nice.
Not identify the object. Yeah.
That's a great pick then.
Mm-hmm. It does not seem to be like a spell per se. Not all magic is spells.
Okay. I hope understandably causing some cognitive dissonance because I'm assuming that a set of rules here, but I know we're doing something different. I will just relay as specifically as I can.
What you see.
Whatever I see.
So just to tell you, quick step back for a moment. In D&D, not all magic is spells. There's other kinds of things than spell magic, and identify works on spell magic, but it doesn't necessarily tell you other things. You learn what spells, if any, are currently affecting you.
For example, things like spell-like abilities.
Spell-like abilities, there's divine magic, which has various kinds of power.
Okay.
There are other realms of magic as well. Monks use magic to do things, and it uses magic, but they're not casting anything.
Okay.
That's like a stock D&D concept.
Okay. I did not know that.
Yeah, I didn't either. I had to learn that too. Okay, great.
So, as they're turning away from the girl, Nino taps Yoshika's arm and says, "I'll join you in a second." She's going to take a 10-minute-ish detour. I've got to see what's under the ground. Now that I know the worms are under the ground, what are our little halfling decompositioners, disassemblers. What are halfling disassemblers doing down there? So she scrambles in a pleasantly downward direction.
Diamondback will not follow her directly, but Diamondback wants to like grab Tull and like drag Tull along. Oh, Tull's way too big. He won't fit.
Neither will you, Diamondback. Well, you might be if you're. I mean, you're a skinny dude, I think, right?
Yeah.
So you could probably like wiggle into the hole, but remember that Neno's a gnome, and these two guys down there are halflings.
The Diamondback will stand at the entrance, tapping his foot.
Okay.
I'm sorry. It seems like Dwight is saying something, but I can't tell what he's saying.
You could send your snake after her.
Oh yeah, your snake. But you don't see what it sees, though, right?
I don't see what it sees, but I could tell it to protect somebody.
It's true.
Hey boy, be my anchor. And she unwraps one of her wrap skirts and tosses him one edge to be a rope because she knows it goes down. She doesn't know what's down there, but last time she went down, she used one of the other boys in the party to be her rope to get her back up. And so now she knows it's necessary. She heads down and sees what her eyes can see. What does she see, DM?
Holler if you are in any danger, and I will send help.
Sure.
There are a winding set of tunnels in a thick knot. They don't seem to be. It's not going deep and far into the ground, but there are frequently little left, right, up, down directions you could switch. Generally speaking, they go downward. You get the impression, based on how much skirt you're unraveling, that by the time you have moved downward towards where you think you're going, you've probably gone, you're guessing, 10, 15 feet, 15, 20 maybe. What you find is that they seem to have a significant amount of time, you would guess, scratched out a series of tunnels into a very large boulder of this black stone. The town perhaps is built on it. The stone at the top, everything is resting on, and then they have these holes that the pile out of. And these holes that Scarret and Skivret sort of wiggle through in the darkness. Apparently they must know them very well. You get down to the bottom and you find a larger chamber, big enough for maybe one of your friends, and certainly Skivret and you can be there with some extra room. They appear to be not quite sleeping, but close, and illumination from no particular source that you can discern. Maybe the walls themselves are glowing slightly, or maybe it's some kind of moss or something. But it's enough to just make them out there seem not to... They notice you, don't seem to pay much attention to you. Perhaps they're going to sleep. But all of the walls, as far as you can tell, are this black. And the surface of those walls to have been carved by scratching more than by workmanship.
Nana doesn't say anything. Starts to spin herself in circles and wrap.
Okay, fair enough. Diamondback, a few minutes passes and you feel some tugging, gentle, like normal sorts of tugging, no noises and nothing dire. But basically, Neno rappels back up out of this pit, almost. Not quite a pit, but this tunnel system. And do you want to tell them what you see, or do you want to...
There's nothing. The disassemblers are down there, but there's nothing else.
And they had little, there were remnants of what they had eaten. There's, they had straw that they were sleeping on, stuff like that, but it wasn't fancy. So and it smelled a little. Diamondback, how about you? You want to interact more about that?
Diamondback would just be satisfied that she's okay.
Okay.
Interested in going to sleep soon.
There is a third hole that is much bigger, several feet, and you have seen everyone use that as, let's say, a privy.
I would not go explore that one.
So there you go.
Tashash isn't here to crawl into it.
So you go to sleep. Those of you who do so, I think one of you is going to stay the third watch. There are no more sounds in the forest tonight. It appears that they have been once again emptied. Your best read as you go to sleep and you're mulling things over, each of you, is that Krafit was concerned that the Blood Knight may not have yielded enough in tribute, perhaps because of the recent Blood Knight elsewhere that had taken creatures away. He seems to be relieved. He seemed to be relieved that the tribute was seen as satisfactory and there were enough such creatures around. It does not seem as though the Iron Bell noticed that there was a sorry, the word just eluded me. Ananaga. There was one, and when the bell arrived, it made
Got
off
away.
into the darkness. But there you go. They didn't seem to notice. Krafit did not bring it up. You go to sleep. The night goes as you would expect now. No sounds, no nothing, no hint of the thing above. You don't know what that was. Toll remembered it quite clearly, and he was awake while the rest of you were asleep. Toll, you may or may not want to come morning, let them know about it. If you remember, Toll, you actually had a clear and distinct recollection. It was your first night, as it were, away from the Iron Bell, from your slavery, and it was during the false night in your previous lands that you heard the same sound. And now during this Blood Night, perhaps even causing this Blood Night, you heard it again above.
I think I did actually mention that. So the party is aware of it. I think I mentioned it like last session that
Okay.
I'd heard it like previously, and I think it was the same one.
Okay, and you probably said that to everyone who was awake, or you would have told them at the time?
Yes.
Okay, sounds good. So, morning comes. You're all awake around the time of morning, as is your habit. You have whoever is on watch wake you up so that you don't waste the light. The townsfolk are all busying themselves, just as they did in the dusk hours. You see them emerging from the silence, the silent time, starting to talk, starting to do different things. One thing you've noticed is that sometime during the night they butchered the deer. What's up?
Who did and when? We were all asleep.
Somebody did quietly,
Okay.
and it has been hung in long strips down below, on the sorry, not the bottom layer where the white stone floats, but the layer below you. It has been hung in white strips. Nobody had been sleeping there, so perhaps you speculate it's one of the things they keep there. That they appear to have been making something like rations that they might dry or something like that. Morning comes. Krafit and Morka come and giving you a bit of time, tell you that they're going to have their meal and they're happy to help you get on your way in whatever way is best for you. If y'all are ready to go, they are ready to send you out. There seems to be no ill will whatsoever. Krafit does seem to have been, let's say, concerned about Diamondback's offer to attack the Iron Bell, and he doesn't seem to be, angry or anything like that. It was unnerving for him to some degree.
Okay, so Mr. DM,
Hi.
has Diamondback had the benefit of a full night's sleep?
Yes, each of you got a full night's sleep.
I love that. Thank you.
You are very welcome.
Next, I'm going to approach Morka, the town leader. And the first thing
Nice.
that I did when I got up this morning was to create 7 of what we have been calling castable bundles. I believe I have enough to create 7 of these, with 1 casting of heat metal each. And I've got them done up in nice, neat little origami, identical origami things. And I go up to him and I say, Marka, I have this suggestion.
Crafit? Are you saying to Crafit?
Oh, sorry, Crafit, the one is in charge. Who's Morka?
Yeah. Morka's the arcanist woman.
Actually, it's more. It is Morka.
Yeah.
It is Morka that I want to talk to.
Yeah.
Crafit is a coward.
They're both kind of in charge in some ways.
Morka is a powerful mage, probably, and Crafit is a cowardly mayor type who's worthless to Diamondback. So
we don't take too kindly to mayors around here.
It's called bearing the weight of responsibility, and it's kind of hard. It's harder than it looks, Matt.
This is the kind of scathing political commentary our audience has come here for.
Diamondback maybe could use to learn a little bit about that, but he hasn't yet. It'll be Morka, and I will display these to her, and I'll say, Morka, are you familiar with the heat metal spell?
I am, yes.
The Iron Bell from last night. What do you think that 7 distinct castings of heat metal would do to him with that hand?
Well, I think it would cause him some pain, cause us some death.
I'm offering to join you to ambush them and free your town from the tyranny of the Iron Bell.
And free us to what?
Yoshka steps in and says, no, he is like this. But he is saying what we feel. We want to take care of you. And if Crafit's within, I'll try to wrangle him in by saying, Crafit, if I see correctly, it seems that you have a very big problem here. You owe undead to the Iron Bell, and the woods are running out of beasts. Is that how it is?
Yes, but they will rebuild. The bell will not come back until when we are overwhelmed by the undead, we ring the bell, they rescue us and take the tribute, and it continues.
Just so that we're all on the same page, the amount of damage that Diamondback was offering to Morka to do to this character would be 140 d8. So it's like a nuclear bomb of damage for things wearing armor.
So real quickly, it's 148 distributed across up to 7 targets.
7 different people could do it each on the same target, and then hide out for a minute while it does its effect.
And then
Even if he went to
Feridov
heaven,
would
it would
die.
still happen to him.
Yeah, right. And then Feridov would die, and the other 36 would say scatter.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, she seems to think it would be very effective at hurting him. She
Right.
agrees with you about that for sure,
Um,
and she's grateful for the offer. She says to just to take her response. She sort of says to Yoshka after Krafit explains the, let's call it, tense relationship, the triad relationship between them, the undead of the wood, and the Iron Bell. They have a sort of, you might think of it as ecological balance. At least that appears to be how he's presenting it. Morka sort of pats. She's shorter than you, Diamondback. She's human, but she's shorter than you, and she kind of pats you on the shoulder and says, seemingly very sincerely, "Thank you, young man. I think we're not ready for what that would mean in our lives right now, but I'll tell you what." And she leaves for a few moments. She's gone for a couple of minutes. Krafit continues talking with you all and says, "You all are strange. You're unlike the people I have met here. I wonder if it is the influence of Cinderon. Maybe the ways of his lands are different than Garatone's. You're brazen."
It is because we have seen something. There are great ones. We seem strange, and perhaps we are because we have seen strange things. Simdaron's land, he did not affect us like this. We saw a parting of the great trees, and we saw there are great ones beyond Simdaron. This has, well, at least changed my mind very much.
He, you notice in particular, casts a sidelong glance at Belvari, seeming to mull over what he wants to say in response to that. And he says, "What do you mean a parting of the great trees?"
Well, we saw it in a dream. It was night, and there were about us, and then we looked up, and the great trees parted, and there were fireflies there too. We all had this dream, and we thought it was just a dream until, all awake, we were traveling and saw one of the great ones come down in a terrible night.
And when you say "come down," what does that mean?
It came flying down and crashed into the woods, and the trees were coming awake. We could not go investigate. We had to flee to the closest walls we knew.
I don't know anything about what you're saying, except that, and then he lowers his tone, as you've seen them do, perhaps wary of telling you lore, any kind of stories, but he trusts his people, maybe not all of yours all the way. And he says, "I know that there was a hole above the hole a long time ago." And he glances again sidelong at Belvari and says, "Listen."
I am not strange for the same reason that he is strange.
Well, we are going to leave, and I am going to give you all, and I raise my voice enough so that the hunters can hear if they're nearby, an invitation. Are seeking the beginning of a different age. We see the light is growing dim, and we have seen the great ones beyond the six. And we do not know how, but we are heading north because we seek the beginning of a new age. My invitation to you all, and I'm trying to be persuasive
Sure.
here,
Roll it.
is help us. Come with us. At least to the first night. We have a magic that can keep you safe the night, or if you can go back yourself, do.
Roll a persuasion check.
Natural 20, 29.
Ooh!
Quite persuasive.
Morka returns as you're saying this. I rolled a counter roll, by the way, just to see what would happen. Morka returns as you're saying this, and she has in her hands what appears to be a kind of it's a stick, right? But it's not just a stick. It is formed. It doesn't look carved. It looks as though it was formed by some process of years of someone touching and polishing and bending. It's wood into a shape. It's shiny. It's maybe 2 feet long total, but has some twists in it. And it appears to be of 2 different kinds of wood with no seam between them. One end is pale, and the other end is reddish, oakish, right? You don't understand exactly what this is that you're looking at. Morka was apparently coming to say something, but she overhears Yoshka's speech and pulls Krafit and starts whispering to him for a moment. Yoshka, you get the impression she was, let's say, at the least intrigued. After a few moments, Krafit goes to Teko, and he says to you, just a moment. And he goes over to Teko, and they seem to confer as well. Obviously, he's concerned for Adina, who is in an unknown condition.
Yeah.
One of the things that they are acutely aware of is that you are going to the lake she just came from. Morka has said whatever she has said to Krafit, and he ends up coming back to you. And, sorry, one sec. There we go. He comes to you and he says, I listen and I watch. And he looks at Belvari as he says those things. And he says, I think we would like to help you, but we have a few to address here. And he seems to lean in and whisper more, not whisper, but speak more towards you, leader to leader, Yoshka, and says to you, basically, I am tending a number of souls here. These are my charge. And some, especially, and he glances downward, the 2 below, Skirit and Skivrit, cannot take care of themselves completely. Adina is not well. But here's what we would do. And Morka, who's standing there listening, and more or less only the three of you are talking, and it's kind of hushed. Maybe the others can hear. She takes that strange stick that's gnarled. It's not very thick. It's maybe a half inch or inch diameter, and it's almost like she breaks it, but instead of breaking, it comes apart into the two pieces of wood. Each one a ball, kind of a twisted, gnarled ball, and she puts one around her hand. You can see that there's a way to hold it, and it's around her hand. And she gives you, Yoshka, the other one.
Oh. What is this?
She says, put it on.
Okay, I'll put it on.
And she begins to tell you, we have some ways to help, and we know some things of this wood immediately. We would send with you ours. If you find something that warrants all of us leaving this safety, let us know. But you realize she's not talking. Only you are hearing. She's coming directly to you.
Okay.
She says, only in your mind that you can tell. Who would you have?
Well,
And you find yourself able to communicate back easily.
one of the hunters familiar with the lake.
And she says,
Tekel, if he wasn't worried about his daughter.
Teko is our farthest ranging, only one who has been to the lake, frequently enough to know it. I'll ask him. I would suggest perhaps also Lambril. He's capable. Now that we have a deer, we should be fine without them for a while. I will tell you, if you don't find anything soon enough, they will return.
Yes.
None of the rest of you hear anything of this going on. Yoshka, this thing that's about fist size, it just barely fits over your fist, and there's a piece in the middle that you can hold it with. While you're using that, you won't be able to use anything else in that hand. It is containing it, as it were.
Do I need to wear this all the time? How do I know if you want to speak to me, or how do you know if I want to speak to you?
Wear it. I want you to put it on, and you will too.
Okay.
The impression you have is that she's telling you on and try. She would be aware that you're trying to talk to her through this thing. She's attuned to it.
Okay. So we both just kind of keep it on.
Yeah. So she takes it off and walks over and talks to Teko and Lambro, as well as the other hunters and hunters. She gets several of them, and it ends up being all of them away from you, except for Krafit, who stays with you, and Adina, who is not there, right? She's ill. But the rest of them, and Scarrett and Skivert stay below. The rest of them are, you can't tell what's happening, but they're having a conversation about what's going on. In the end, they walk back over, and Teko and Lambro both agree to go with you, with Teko letting you know, Yoshka, that he's deeply concerned about and would stay, except that his best guess the lake is the solution, since there is not a solution.
I somehow didn't capture in my notes Lambro.
Lambro, you have had no meaningful interaction with him. He's another hunter in the town. He was just doing stuff. Nobody talked to him. He's a human. If that settles that for you guys, Lambrel and Teko,
Can I say something real quick? While all that's going on, Inkatink goes over to Diamondback and he says, "Now I was running with this fellow a while back. Real piece of work. Real tough guy, tough hombre. And one time he finally decided it was time. He didn't want to give me my cut, so he cut me down and left me for dead. Well, a couple of weeks later, I see him right there in the middle of the square, and I cut him down. And it felt pretty good for a moment until I realized it was his twin brother. Somehow I didn't sleep too good that night." And he kind of turns and strolls off.
I do not understand my feathered friend. It's most strange.
Neno goes over and murmurs at Diamondback. He was just warning them of betrayers of us.
A Diamondback would like to attempt to buy spell components if he can. He didn't really talk to Morka very much. I think somebody else got some components, but he wants some specific ones.
Morka tells you that she gave you, Diamondback, Morka lets you know she gave you everything she could spare to Yoshka, and she gave him upwards of 100 components. Not 100 different kinds, but a total would be in that neighborhood. 40, 30 kinds, 60 kinds, I don't remember how many. The idea is that was a gift given to Yoshka for the party as a thank you for y'all, breaking the monotony at least. So they're ready to send you on your way. Will y'all have eaten? They're eating their breakfast. Would y'all have eaten?
I'll eat with them.
Pull out a ration unless you would like to eat their food.
I want to eat their food.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll eat their food if they have it. Well, to spare.
I want to eat their food.
I think I might eat my ration. I don't think that deer is going to go very far now that I know that. Now that Neno knows game is sparse.
Okay. So you're going to eat your own? Mm-hmm. All right.
Should I have rations and be decrementing them?
Yes. You, I think, have some in your component pouch. The second...
my component pouch.
Inkatink hands you a chunk of elk meat.
Or in your D&D Beyond. Either way is fine.
I'm decrementing 2 rations. So if you find them, that's cool. But Inkatink gives you elk meat.
I think that Tull did not start with an adventurer's pack the way that most of us did.
That's right. He was just a slave with no belongings besides a component pouch he yoinked.
Yeah.
If you all want to give Tull some rations, feel free to help him have plenty. But Tull also, they seem to be willing to let you eat from their provision.
Yeah, I'll just eat theirs, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah, I took a 12-point damage magical blast standing on their walls last night. I'm gonna eat some of their food.
Yeah,
I mean, it's my fault, but I'm selfish.
Speaking of which, Neno would try some more healing your way if she could.
Oh no, I don't. I had a full long rest last night. So
okay.
It's time to run.
Say it again.
It's time to run.
It is indeed. So, Krafit has his own component pouch. You actually don't see him do much with his. Morka seems to generally run that, but he has a little component pouch which he opens, sticks his fingers in, grabs a few things, and repeating what he did last time, he opens the portion of the wall, the town wall, the tangled mass of bone and such. And you see all of the bits and pieces unfolding again, sort of really not unfolding, unfurling, as it were, outwards and becoming untangled. Previously, they had folded inward. This time they're folding outward. And you see that they have made a kind of uneasy walkway for you to get out of. Your recollection from the last time is that you have, 10, 15 seconds to get to the outside of the wall before it starts folding back. Would y'all like
Boy
to go up?
runs out yelling, "Flee, you fools!"
Tink is hot on his heels.
Belvari, I will tell you this later separately. I'll tell you the details later separately. But before you leave, Crafit whispers some things to you.
Okay.
Okay. So I'm looking for this guy. I think.
Is it?
We've been trying to reach you for some time about your car's extended warranty.
As maybe
It is.
just to add one little scene to as we're packing up, as everybody's packing up, Yoshika says, "Listen, now everyone, I don't like what I'm seeing here. This party pack is getting too full. If we face some danger, all of these are going to do no one any good. I want everyone to look through here and take what is best for you. Take the things you're good at."
Would everyone mind if I sorted the sheet based on spell level of at least the first component?
Oh, I did that.
Speaking of levels, we just all made it through an encounter with the bell at the yesterday. Did we level up at all?
You
Get some
will each
XP.
have gotten 150 experience.
Oh, should I put that in?
You may.
Love it.
It's okay with me if you don't.
Let's do experience. 150.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
That includes the town, the undead, the Iron Bell. There was not very much combat per se, but y'all learned a lot. You figured some stuff out.
Well, while people who are savvy at sorting spells are doing so, Neno has pulled out a needle and is offering to Yoshika to quickly stitch that tangle of communicator to his to the chest of his shirt, so that he can yank it off and fuse with a jerk, but that it's securely tied so he can run and
Oh,
use
thank
both
you.
hands.
That would be excellent.
Use components from the shared component pouch, like in combat. Do we have to move them to our own component pouch first?
Very strict about that. I think if you are next to Yoshika and you grab some, whatever, or even if you just say, I'm going to get some components and then use them. I'm pretty flexible. Let's make it seem like a good adventure. Good radio.
Okay.
But, don't just wildly transgress reality and say, like, if you say things like, I'm going to leave all the components there, then don't use any.
Fair.
And Jared, did you put the...
Yeah, I put Morka's stuff in. And Josh just mix it all in.
Mm-hmm. So I just want to let y'all know, I don't know how this would affect your characters or not, but some of the stuff she gave you was from plants, some from animals, some were from undead things or things in different conditions. That's just color. But for example, line 47, the tongue of a dark-armed orc, and it was a foul one, which is to say putrid, kind of rotten, undead.
Oh.
The reason I picked that one also just to say is you will know that this is the tongue of an orc. So
Yeah.
your character may view that differently since it was a sentient being. I leave it to you to decide how you'll interact with that, but those are a real thing to be aware of, maybe, if your character cares. Okay. Sorry, go ahead. Were you going to say something, Aaron Joy?
I was saying I Aaron Joy, not Neno, don't think I can sort out of here what I would Neno's pouch in any kind of timely way.
Yeah. Okay. That's fine. Hey, and I just want to point out to those of you that totally fine. Take your time. I just want to point out to you that there are spells in here of locate object and find the path.
Right.
Nice.
I'm just letting you know.
Yes. For those as we go, so we can line up our
You have,
one in the queue.
yeah, and I think you have one left for Diamondback to drink to
Oh,
get
do we?
where.
I thought. Oh.
Maybe you used the last one. I don't know.
We only one, or
Okay.
does it make two? If we could get one for Diamondback, that would actually give us a direction, so we're not just groping.
You know
I
pretty
think that-
well. Sorry, go ahead.
I think that I'm. Sorry, I think that I'm out.
Okay.
I have one find the path left, but what we need for the potion is more than just that. Locate object and detect magic as well.
So which of those do we need to get today?
All of those are in your shared pouch.
We have locate object.
Do we have enough to cast it?
You only need one of each.
We have 4 components
Oh.
for find the path. So that's pretty nice. We
Does anybody-
need
In that case, does anybody have detect magic? Oh yeah, we got tons of detect magic, so we can definitely cast this at least once more.
In your experience, just to let you know, Inkatink and Diamondback have both had one of these before. Experience was that it lasted 5 or 6 hours. You're guessing of feeling that feeling. Also, that the lake is a day travel, so 10, 12 hours away. You're guessing maybe 2 of these. Although, having asked them, you do know the general direction to go. Teko and Lambrel are with you.
Yeah, we don't.
They can at least tell you where the lake is. They won't be able to tell you anything about Diamondback's goal. Teko can at least take you to the lake.
Yeah, let's save it for when we're there.
Yeah, if we do it like tomorrow morning,
Yeah,
if we survive the night,
yeah.
if we survive the dying of the light, I mean.
All right. Do you want to be on your way? Anything? Sorry, were you going
Yeah.
to say something, Android?
Oh, I was just gonna say, as soon as we're out and there's a little distance between the town, us, Neno would ask Yoshika, "Do we really have the ability to protect them overnight?"
Yes, I can. We were given a magic that can make a tiny hut impenetrable.
Oh, do we have enough
Also-
to actually cast that?
Yeah.
Also,
That's awesome.
you will know that Teko goes out with his daughter for 2-3 days at a time. So he at least has some skills, some survival skills. So
So I'll just try to coordinate with Teko as we go and say, listen, if we can get near the lake by the end of the day, that will be good. I'll explain to him the magic thing that I could make that we could spend the night in safely, and just tell him, you were not here when we met your fellows, but in many ways we are like children here. We know there are many things that even little children here know that we do not know. So today we some what sounds like very foolish questions because we are from Simderon's domain. Please be patient with us and guide us. We don't know what the dangers are during the day or that's to take. Many things that you may even know without thinking about.
we will want to move quickly. We must get there. I don't know how to help my daughter, but I would like to get there quickly.
Good. I have an idea about how to seek that out, so let's do it.
And just to read our for our listeners, tiny hut, I believe, is the spell that that Jared's referring to, Yoshka. A 10-foot radius immobile dome of force springs into existence around and above you and remains stationary for the duration if you leave its area.
Mm-hmm.
9 creatures of medium size or smaller can fit inside the dome with you. The spell fails if its area includes a larger creature, more than 9 creatures. Creatures and objects within the dome, when you cast the spell, can move through it freely. All other creatures and objects are barred from passing through it. And just to say, spells and other magical effects cannot extend through the dome or be cast through it. The atmosphere inside the space is comfortable and dry, regardless of the weather outside. Until the spell ends, you can command the interior to become dimly lit or dark. The dome is opaque from the outside, any color you choose, but transparent from the inside. So I'm going to be...
I'll mention to Tekel at the relevant point, if we can, as long as we can find solid rock to sleep upon, where the worms, nothing will come up from below. I can keep us safe from anything above the earth.
So real quickly, Diamondback, Belvari, Nano, Yoshka, Toll, Talid. Who else? Anybody else? Inkatink, Teko, and Lambrel. That's 9. It's close. All right.
Snuggle in.
Yeah. So I'm going to tell you, I'm going to be, I'm going to hold those rules. So
Great.
be aware. Okay.
How is it for soundproofness?
It does not say at all.
I was thinking probably like with the white noise generators, you can choose the tracks.
Probably. What I would say is, let's see, things can't go through it. I'm going to say that the opacity works the same with sound. You can hear and see what's outside. They cannot hear or see what's inside. Or smell even.
Is Toll medium size?
Yeah. All of you are medium or smaller. Humanoid is medium. Okay. Yeah, well, I guess giants are humanoid-ish, maybe. But anyway, so let's go. Teko, sorry, so you want him to take you to the lake?
Yeah.
Okay. Teko is, you can quickly tell, able to make much faster time than you all. He slows down, and is not impatient, but is quick. He's
Okay.
able. Is capable, but he does not go as far as Teko does. He's one who does day outings with the other 2 hunters from the town. But Teko knows his way pretty well. It seems like within a few hours of the town itself, the little hamlet that you came from, Sarakhan, he actually knows the terrain. Past that, he seems to be comfortable with it, although he doesn't specifically know the actual ins and outs in terms of the actual landscape. I'm going to do a couple of rolls here as we go. I just want to see if y'all, what you're seeing around you. I've pre-made some things, and I want to understand how those are coming for you. First, let me describe. Yeah.
Do we have a druid? Is that Belvari?
I'm a druid.
As we go, Diamondback's going to pull out some of these components from the shared pouch that can cast Goodberry, which he knows about because he's a wizard and he knows about spells, but he doesn't want to cast it because he's not very good at using this particular one, but a druid would be good at it. And Goodberry gives us free food, or at least it converts these components into food.
All right.
So get those, Belvari.
Where are they?
In the shared pouch. Just Control F for Goodberry.
As we go, I'm going to say to Inkatink, Can I give you a project?
Inkatink kind of clucks and nods his head.
I would love to know what Spolash's plans are. Can you keep an ear out on that stone and try to find the best time of day that we might be able to overhear them?
When was the last time we heard? I thought the stone went silent.
It did not go silent, but the last thing you heard was burbling water.
Okay, yeah, Inkatink will keep it. He'll fashion a little, basically like an eye patch, and then rotate it 20 degrees over so that it's on the side of his head and where the stone, and listen.
All right. So the land here is thick and loamy. It seems as though there's a lot of the soil is well turned by the creatures within. Normally you would expect it to have a sort of mixture of soft and hard as you walk through different places, but aside from being on rocks, your feet sink a little more than you're used to. You ask about this once or twice, different times, trying to figure out what's going on. And when Lambro finally understands what you mean, he explains that this is probably something you don't know, he says, being, sorry, this is probably something being from Sarakhan. Sorry.
Simran.
Probably something you don't know, being from Sindaran. Here, the bugs, they die, but they don't stay dead. I guess you could never dies. It rides through the soil, and when it comes to the end of its life, it rides through the soil some more. So there are very, very many of the worms and the maggots and the centipedes and everything else that creeps and crawls. And so the soil is constantly turned and churned underfoot. Here it does not matter much. You can walk and will not have much of an issue. But when we get closer to the lake, it will matter a bit more. The ground becomes more wet everywhere, and some things float in the soil.
Hearing this,
Go ahead, Diamondback.
Hearing this explanation, Diamondback would like to study the soil and the undead things. He's a necromantic wizard, and so I feel like I'd like to make an Arcana check to try and there must be some great magic constantly, because to bring things back to create zombies, he knows takes magic to do it. You have to cast a spell or use a component or whatever. So he wants to see what is doing this, what is making this happen here in this specific place.
Okay.
Can Inkatink keep an eye out for hollow reeds or hollow things that he can fashion into something that Diamondback can take a sample with to try to give him the help action?
Sure.
I'm also proficient in Arcana if it matters.
We're studying it together.
Just a couple of guys studying worms, having a good time.
Teko notices and encourages you to move more quickly, but it will take some of your concentration to do this. That's okay. You'll be working on it as you go for half an hour, say. Hold on 1 second.
Rip it.
Rip it, dude.
Rip
So-
the soda, bro.
Diamondback, you definitely know that the best way you're going to be able to study this is to be able to come up with a few samples of creature, of worm or maggot or some kind of thing from the ground.
Mhm.
You are also keenly aware that more or less everything that dies goes to the ground. So anything that ends up getting buried, like, say, for example, a squirrel, if it got covered over with soil, could potentially be under the surface of the ground, immobilized and dead and undead.
Yeah, so this is something that like Diamondback likes, and this is how it should be in the world. And so he's like, what great god is making a snake clan out of this whole land?
And I'd like for you to roll me a check. That's going to be to see how well you do at grabbing a worm or something out of the ground without it harming you, and it's on a DC 10.
Okay. 11 plus 2 is 13.
Okay. 11, you got 13, great. So you are able to get something. You get a, let's see. You actually, scrounging around, you find a couple of worms. You're not sure whether they're alive or undead because worms. But then you notice actually one worm that is, let's say, all that writhes about in some kind of gore imbued. And you're able to pluck it out and hold it in the palm of your hand. With the 13, you hold it for Inkatink to see in the palm of your hand. And Inkatink notices just before you do that it's beginning to try to burrow again into its new soil on your palm. He manages to quickly slip a piece of bark that he has grabbed underneath it, preventing it from entering your flesh, Diamondback. The two of you are able to study this as you go and identify it. I'd like for you to do an Arcana roll with help. Diamondback if you'd like, or it can be Inkatink doing it with Diamondback's help. Either way is fine with me. Though, I would like for you to use, you have to use Detect Magic to do it.
Okay. Let me decrement my supply of Detect Magics here. Done. And then I will make that roll. Well, my Arcana is +3. How's yours, Inkatink?
You should do it.
All right. Here goes. Ugh. Okay. 14.
That's with advantage?
Yes.
14. Let me look at something here. Okay. You are not able to discern, Diamondback, exactly how these are animated, but with a 14, you do realize you may actually do better to get a living worm and kill it in your palm.
I'll take another half hour to do that.
Okay. And this half hour isn't just being still, right? You're going with the group.
Yeah.
It's just you're having to like lag behind and then catch up and that sort of thing. Okay, do another. So the way this will work, Diamondback, you're well versed in death and undying, and so what I'm going to have you do is you're going to kill this worm in some way that you think would not destroy its ability to return. So, for example, smushing it under your heel, right, to a paste. You're going to realize is not going to let it come back. How do you want to try to kill it?
I mean, I don't know much about worms.
Put it in some salt. Do you have salt?
Inkatink also has acid in a cantrip form.
Yeah, I mean, actually, here's what I'll do. That's a great idea. Inkatink and him are discussing it, and he offers the acid.
And
Isn't
Toll
acid
chimes
gonna
in.
destroy it though? I feel like it's
right,
not
exactly. Which is why Diamondback is going to actually use Chill Touch.
Gonna. Oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah, that's good.
And just to let you all know, you would not have a whole bunch of salt, but you do have salt from your, like, you have salted meat is one of the things you've gotten when you were at Miradao or somewhere.
Yeah, no, but this spell Chill Touch is the School of Necromancy, and it's the ghostly skeletal hand, and it does necrotic damage. So this is like practically turning it undead. It doesn't actually turn it undead, but it's like
Yeah, it turns it dead.
it's resonant. It's resonant with the thing that I want to study. So I'm going to use Chill Touch on a worm.
So
it's turning this worm into the necromantic Usain Bolt of dying.
Diamondback, you crush the component in your. You have this worm sitting in your left hand, in the palm of your hand, on the same piece of wood. You flicked away the other one.
Yeah.
And you crush in your right hand with Inkatink and Toll, since you're chiming in, you're now watching too, I suppose. You crush the components for Chill Touch, and what you see is the black mist from the components sink into Diamondback's hand on his right hand. And after a few moments, in Diamondback's palm, a spectral hand, which looks exactly as though it was Diamondback's own skeleton closing a fist while his flesh remains open-handed. This spectral skeleton of Diamondback's makes a tight fist around the worm. It is slightly transparent, so you can see the worm writhing in the closed fist, making almost a perfect circle at one point, and then instantly switching to a new position, twisting itself in knots as it dies. After a few moments, it dies. The hand, the spectral skeletal hand, unfolds back into Diamondback's flesh. And you see the worm sitting there in your palm, physically undamaged, but completely motionless. You continue to walk for a while, and nothing seems to happen to the worm. Though, after a time, maybe 10, 15, could even be 20 minutes, you're not sure exactly, you do notice, Diamondback, that the worm starts to, probably the best thing you could say is, starts to leak. You mentioned to Inkatink and Toll what's happening, and basically the inner ichor of the worm oozes out a bit into a puddle on the bark. The worm now is pale, and you notice, you feel almost as though the ground itself is like reaching up with tendrils of black. This mist, this darkness that you have had all your life around you, reaches up, and a little tendril of it licks around the edge of your hand, Diamondback, into one part of the worm, writhing its way out, almost as though it's a worm itself connected to the ground. And in a moment, that worm starts to move as the tendril of mist was. And as it moves more and more, it then disconnects, the mist dissipates, and you have on the wood in your palm a pale, undead worm. You don't specifically notice a particular spell that is being cast on the worm. It is clearly undead, and it is clearly from the wood. You guess, your best guess is this is the doing of Garatone in his land. It is the way of death here.
From the wood or from the ground?
Sorry, the wood, the surroundings, the environment.
Diamondback takes a chance, and he attempts to command the worm, saying, like, "Worm, I have raised you from the dead. Now, form yourself into a circle.
Diamondback, roll me a. Gosh, what's the right second?
Charisma?
No. No, roll me an.
How about a shenanigans roll? That sounds like a shenanigans roll to me.
My spell attack modifier is +5.
No, I just want a straight wisdom roll on a DC 14.
Okay. Here it goes. That's going to be a failure. 3 + 2 is only 5.
The worm writhes into different shapes, and as you say that, it makes a shape that could be a circle if you looked at it at a right angle. Diamondback, you're pretty sure you control this worm.
Great success.
Worms make pitiful zombies.
So that aside, you're
Oh
walking.
no, not that aside. I'm trying it with a mouse next.
Yeah, he is.
Buckle up. I've got a Ranger Rick animal box, and we're doing every card in here.
As you continue walking, and that's fine with me, by the way, Diamondback. As you continue walking, let's see.
So, Diamondback also very much wants to reach their destination, so he's not going to do anything that would slow everybody down. I would like to look for a larger and yet still harmless animal if I can find it, one that's still living. But if I don't want to slow anybody down at all for it.
Walking, Lambrel at one point whispers to everyone, "Stop."
I stop.
I stop.
He points ahead and to the left, and there's not quite a clearing, but sort of a cleared out section of trees where there are. It appears as though the forest floor had all the debris moved away from it, and there are two figures. It looks like a man, a humanish man, and a humanish woman that are sitting on stones, facing each other, and holding hands and appearing just to look at each other. At first, you're not sure, but something seems a little strange about this. And then you realize as you move a few moments, as you're all slowly walking, the reason it seems a little strange is that you can just barely see the forest behind them through them. We're going to take a break right here for 10 minutes. We'll come back and perhaps figure out what's going on. All right, let's come back at 9:05.
Jared, I wanted to thank you for the headset. I haven't actually gotten it yet from the office, but I appreciate it nonetheless.
You're welcome. Yes. Merry Christmas.
Thank you.
And when we return, perhaps we can find a member of the phylum Chordata to perform necromantic experimentation upon.
Which one's Chordata?
Those are the animals that have bilateral symmetry and spines.
Would you like to specify? It's called.
What if they have scoliosis in those spines? Are they still bilaterally symmetrical?
Figs, brown sugar, walnuts,
No.
berries, orange peel.
But they're still chordatae.
No, they become declassified and they fall outside of the entire zoological classification system.
That's right.
That's the type
why
of
diseases are
problem
so
I like to
insidious.
see. Just remove them from the taxonomy entirely. Out of sight, out of mind.
That's right. That's right. Freud was a fool for trying to understand a thing by studying the aberrant.
That's
I
what
agree.
he was a fool for.
It seems overly difficult to me.
That and doing enough cocaine to kill a horse. I'm gonna go tell my kid to actually get clean. I'll be back.
great. I realized.
Can someone turn down the music?
Yeah.
What about the music?
Somebody turned it down and it suddenly got real.
It's the ghostly lovers humming to each other.
That's right. What do you think they are? I guess they're ghosts, right?
Yeah, I'm guessing they were actual people who actually died and came back in some kind of, maybe when you get undead, your spirit still exists, but your body gets animated by undeath or something, and so they are separated, so they have no rotting corpse flesh, but they also have no purpose.
Would you like this piece or a smaller or larger piece?
That piece looks great. If that's the case, if your souls can get separated from your rotting flesh and something else is animating your flesh, then we could have an entire army of spirits just waiting for your powers of persuasion.
I'm so curious if Diamondback's gonna like make some friends with it.
Diamondback doesn't make friends. Diamondback makes servants.
But he's a, like a fellow.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
Who doesn't want
It's a low bar for friendship, but we're really
So,
for that.
keep inspiration between long rests, or is it like a use it or lose it thing?
Keep it till you use it.
Okay, cool.
But if you don't use it, you can't get another.
What do you mean? Oh, yeah, like I only have one slot for inspiration.
Yeah.
Just brownies and cookies together just for fun.
Hey Patrick.
Awesome.
Yes.
Hey Patrick. Do you know what your staff does?
Yes, I have it in my D&D Beyond inventory, and it's got instructions and whatnot.
Okay, cool.
Any reason why is there something you want to know if it can do, or?
No, just I'm just trying to get familiar with all the spells I can cast. And I recently realized, we have this identified. We should start doing that when it would be useful.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I got all my charges back on here. Fix that.
Can I bring one thing to your attention that may be relevant for this region?
Yeah.
The thing that I was vaguely remembering from when I used to play D&D that I was wanting for this is actually a cleric ability. Have you
A
sorted
particular ability? Or you wanted there to be a cleric?
There's this particular cleric ability called Channel Divinity. And within one of the things that can do is turn undead.
Yes.
I don't know if you sorted that out with her, but
Yes. Channel Divinity. What's that?
I am second level.
Channel Divinity. I have worked that out, although I don't know that I've worked that out.
I turn something undead, or I myself turn undead?
Turn them away.
Yeah.
Oh, like repel them. Okay.
And that may mean some stuff about your character and like how she feels about being undead.
And Sir Robert, can Inkatink cast first level spells from components?
If you've seen somebody else cast it, if they've taught you how.
Okay, if I've seen him. So I've seen Diamondback cast heat metal. Does that apply to like higher level spells?
Yeah, it applies to anything. If you have somebody teach you the recipe, then you can do
Okay.
it.
Okay. All right.
But they have to act, you can't just watch them like crush some random stuff in their hand. They have to show you, use this and this and this and this and this.
Okay. I think, yeah, that's interesting. I'll need to figure out how I'm going to communicate that.
If we only have like 3.5, 4 day travelable hours, we're gonna have more hanging around at night time to just chit chat.
Yeah.
All right, we've got about 2 minutes till we come back in. Aaron, divinity, divine magic is not a spellcasting magic, and for that reason, does not work the same way in this place as forest magic. The way divine magic works is in D&D is that your deity, assuming your deity actually exists and has a reality, has its own like kind of magic. And then when you're channeling divinity, you're using its magic. So, for example, say the Iron Bell might be using Garatone's magic and channeling it to do something. Say, if that's their divinity, their deity. Does that make sense? So for you, for channel divinity, at second level, you gain the ability to channel divine energy directly from your deity, using that energy to fuel magical effects. You start with 2 such effects: turn undead and an effect determined by your domain. Some domains grant you additional effects as you advance in levels, as noted in the domain description. I'll let you read that. And then when you use channel divinity, you choose which effect. Then you need a short or long rest to use it again.
So my character.
So just to tell you, you have this ability. You have this ability too.
My character wasn't level 2 when she was in her town, taking actions that required her god to come through for her. Now she is level 2. She is out in the world. She is doing her ablutions and what all. She's very respectful of her god, but she hasn't tried to use him yet.
Yeah.
Like a force.
So prior to level 2, you can beseech your god to do whatever. And he may or may not. Starting at level 2, you're something like granted by your god the right. And so you can do this. I will leave it to you to interpret your relationship with your god and what that means.
Yeah, I wonder how she would find this out. How would she? She just have to take a chance. Her god would come through, and she would just keep taking chances, and he would.
It depends on
some kind of awareness of an entitlement.
I'll let you work it out however you like,
Huh.
but that's the mechanics of how that works. What were you saying?
Belvari was sneaking off into the woods every night to practice turning into a monster, a beast, until it worked.
Belvari, yeah. So what I was saying, Belvari went out every night and practiced his wild shape to turn into creatures until he got the hang of it. He had some inclination. He already knew that was a thing possible to do at some, in some way, at some level. Neno, I don't know how you know your religion or whatever. I'll leave it to your backstory, whatever you want. But Neno may or may not even know to try. However, if you believe that turning undead is something that your deity would do, like protect you from the undead by this monstrosity, right? Then I'm okay for you to like role play that coming into being.
Yeah. Okay.
I'll leave it to you. Either way, you also could just never use it if you think, yeah, he's cool with undead. He wouldn't turn, whatever you want.
He might be
think
cool with
it's-
that, but I'm willing to think that she would be hopeful that he would be protective of her.
Yeah.
And by extension, the people she feels that she is protecting.
So here's how that works. Diamondback, go ahead. Were you going to say something, Matt?
Oh, just that usually it's, I mean, maybe not usually, but it's sort of assumed in D&D, I think, that this kind of knowledge comes along with the religious tradition.
Right, but there's not really a religious tradition she's coming from here, so.
Oh, well then, who knows?
Yeah. So let me read this to you real quickly, and then we'll start probably in 1 minute, John. As an action, this is turn undead. As an action, you present your holy symbol, which in this case, I'm willing for it.
I need to come up with one.
Yeah. Also, it could be your focus. If you find that, it could be, you could defer it or whatever. I'm happy with anything you want for that. It could even be a particular symbol you have stitched into your garments or something. You present your holy symbol and speak a prayer censuring the undead. Right, so you have to do that. You have to like say a thing, right? Which means not silently.
Mm-hmm.
Each undead that can see or hear you within 30 feet of you must make a wisdom saving throw. If the creature fails its saving throw, it's turned for 1 minute or until it takes damage. A turned creature must spend its turns trying to move as far away from you as it can, and it can't willingly move to a space within 30 feet of you. It also cannot take reactions. For its action, it can only use the dash action or try to escape from an effect that prevents it from moving. If there's nowhere to move, the creature can use the dodge action. Basically, it's like freaked out by you and doesn't want anything to do with you. Okay.
I made up a little
Preferably.
dream
I'll do
that I
it.
had when I saw I reached a milestone where I got a funky ability like that.
Okay.
Nice.
And I just kind
And that was how you knew
Related,
about the
yeah.
ability. Nice.
All right. Let us jump back in.
Diamondback actually took a feat that has a cool ability like that, but I haven't used it yet because it's spellcasting, and I'm trying to wait until I have my spellcasting focus.
Pretty close, seems like. All right. Let us get into our deal here. Of back to the full boilerplate, I'm just going to do an abridged version so that we can have it here. This is The Dying of the Light, Season 3 of the Starfall Collective. The Starfall Collective is a collaborative storytelling group using the Dungeons & Dragons game system as a vehicle for creating rich and compelling stories in a fictional world that we've been developing together for a while. You can find out more about the collective as well as the stories we're telling at the starfallcollective.com. We are back with a new episode. Previously, the party left the town Sarakan, the little hamlet. They are on their way with, thanks to Yoshka's persuasive speech, 2 of the townsfolk accompanying them as one as guide and the other as aid to help them get to the Lake of the Baisugen. They are hopeful, the guide, Teko, is hopeful that they will figure out some way to help his daughter who encountered the Baisugen and somehow left her in an unresponsive state. It may be prudent before you get there to find out whatever lore you can about the Baisugen. I'll leave it to you if you would like. Just now, as the party is moving through and Diamondback and Inkatink with Toll on the side are learning the finer points of the puppeteering of the dead. That's right, of the science.
Vermin necroculture.
That's exactly right. Lambro motioned to everyone to be cautious and quiet. Ahead and to the left, they saw these two figures that were just vaguely translucent. It was a man and a woman of some kind. They're far enough away, maybe 100 feet, 50 feet away, that you can't make out a whole lot of their details, but they appear to be sitting in what looks like a clearing, facing each other, holding hands, and maybe talking or just gazing into each other's eyes or whatever. But they are sitting there, and Lambro cautions you all to wait. He himself stands still, and Teko, who was on a different side, very quietly makes his way over to Lambro to confer. The ghosts are, as you all come up to where the two of them are, these specters, these creatures, these ghostly apparitions, are about 80 feet away from you. So they're not close, but they are close enough that wariness would make sense. There is a faint chill in the air from their direction, and though no breeze, you can kind of feel it almost as though a cool wind is passing over you from the direction they're coming from. Would anybody like to jump in here before I say anything else that goes on?
I produce a rudimentary lathe and begin. I'm just kidding. No, I don't do that.
Diamondback is in the back of the group if we're approaching.
Okay.
Neno is eavesdropping as hard as she can on the locals.
Lambro and the only thing you can make out clearly from them is Lambro asks something about them, and Teko says, "It's the lovers." And then they chatter a little bit more to each other. I mean, not loudly, just whispering, trying to figure out what to do. They seem to come up with a plan of action and turn back, and Lambro whispers to you, "Quietly, let's go this way. We need to go past, but not very close." He shows you where to walk, and you want to avoid stepping on any leaves or twigs that would crunch. You want to avoid kicking any rocks or anything like that. The landscape is not treacherous, but it's a forest. So
Neno, who by nature of her fabulous garb rustles wherever she goes, on Toll's sleeve,
and asks him something.
Silently just yanks, and he just picks her up by an armpit.
Are you good with that, Toll?
Well, doesn't Toll clank wherever he goes?
He's going to have to be careful.
I do have a disadvantage on being stealthy. So.
Right. So, also, any of the rest of you who are wearing any hard armor, so leather armor's fine, anything hard, we're going to make some stealth checks. Anybody who's got anything loud like that has... if you explicitly have disadvantage like Toll, use disadvantage. Otherwise, take -2, which is a proficiency level, off of your stealth. But if you have a stealth that's like +3, you have a net of +1. Go ahead.
I'm going to whisper an encouragement to Toll. Small as a nano, small as a nano. And use my bardic inspiration so that you can get a 1d6 added to your disadvantage roll.
I think, can I, before you do that, I have a silent stone that I can throw it at something, and when it hits a hard surface, the center of it becomes a sphere of silence.
So what would you like to do with that? Describe to me how you are intending to use that.
I think I will throw it. Does the scale mail cover my legs, or is it just a top? If it's just a top, I think I'm running around with no pants on.
So let me read this. Yes, it's a full suit.
Okay, that's a relief.
There's no scales on the bottom. The bottom has is more like studded. Just to give you a sense, it's leather but studded. Here's what your silent stone, which you got during that time when you were going north of Miradau. This is a small round stone about the size of a grape. No matter what you do with it, you seem unable to get it to make a sound. Otherwise, it seems to be a perfectly normal stone. When targeted by detect magic, the stone seems to let off a trickle of black, misty illusion magic. As an action, you may throw this stone. It makes no sound, regardless of what it touches. When it contacts a hard surface, the point of contact becomes the center of a sphere of silence. The sphere is 20 feet in radius and permeates any non-magical barrier. The stone sublimates in a puff of magical mist and is destroyed. And I'm going to tell you, Patrick, I'm going to tell you, the sphere of silence that it makes is immobile.
I don't know. It says the point of contact becomes the center of a sphere of silence. So does it just not stay?
Wherever you're standing, if you throw it at your own armor, that point, the point of that contact becomes the center of the sphere, and then you can move 10 feet before you get out of that sphere.
Oh, that's a shame. Never mind. Then I don't want to do that.
Sorry, hold on. Belvari, what'd you say?
I'm just going to cast Pass Without.
Okay. Pass Without Trace, Belvari.
Yeah, that gives us all like plus 10 to stealth checks.
Yeah, it's plus 10 stealth checks.
A veil of shadows and silence. Yep. A veil of shadows and silence radiates from you, masking you and your companions from detection. Each creature you choose within 30 feet of you, including you, has a plus 10 bonus to dexterity stealth checks and can't be tracked except by magical means. A creature that receives this bonus leaves behind no tracks or other traces of its passage. So, Bavar, you're going to cast that for everybody?
Yep.
Okay. Here's what we're going to do, guys. And you're going to make 5 stealth checks as you go past them. You're going to be getting nearer and nearer and then further and further away as you move past. You're going to roll these stealth checks on... It's going to be DC 12, 15, 17, 15, 12. Okay?
They're going to hear us.
So
that's pretty good. I don't know.
Plus 10 is pretty good.
It is amazing. Yeah. So go for it. Everybody roll a... for your 12. Roll a DC
Can I use
stealth.
inspiration on a stealth check or on a check in general after I roll it and get the number, or do I have to?
Inspiration is before.
Oh.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, you please, Dungeon Master.
I believe it's before you know the result.
But after you make the roll.
But you can make the roll and go, I'm going to use my inspiration.
Right.
I told you the DCs already right now, so just ignore the result part. Yeah, you can use it.
Okay.
I pass.
Nick Tink got a 27, so he passed.
Got a 32.
Neno got a 32.
We all got plus 10?
Yeah.
Like the memory of the whisper of a ghost cat.
16? Or no?
Toll got a 12. He just made it.
Wow, man.
On the branch, and Neno grabs his foot and just shakes her head.
All of his armor falls off, and Diamondback catches it before it clangs to the floor.
I think to stop his foot, Neno would have to do something like bungee off of his shoulder with her robe and like grab his foot.
Oh man!
All right.
His pack gets a cut in it. And things
Okay, I've got a 32, 26, 31, 17, 26. Did 17 make the? I forget
17
what the,
just made. That's a tie. So you rolled your 12, and I'm going to roll for these two guys.
And you had toll on your back, right, for that?
toll on my back.
That's right.
You were being carried by.
Roll our 15s. Everybody roll your 15.
30 for Ink.
I'm good.
Lambro and Teco pass. But Vari, you did okay?
31.
Toll failed.
And Yoshka.
I rolled a natural 1.
So Toll, what did you roll?
3.
Oh wow.
Plus
Okay.
Or no, a
Stealth
13.
bon-
13 because of the plus 10.
Oh, plus your stealth bonus?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that makes it 14.
Okay. Because it's a critical failure, roll me one more d20. I'm going to see the intensity of that failure. What is that?
14.
A 14? Okay. So it's not a terrible, terrible failure. Here's what you see. Y'all are watching the ghosts, or these specters, as you go by. They're just gazing at each other. However, Toll and Yoshka, both of you, as you're going, end up bumping into each other. And you actually don't make a whole lot of sound, except that Toll's armor clatters and clanks. Thankfully, you're still watching the ghosts. They're looking at each other, and they don't seem to move an inch. However, though not moving at all, for some reason, their heads are turned towards you as though they changed the position without moving. They are staring directly at you. Let's do our 17 roll. We're going to continue going. One more failure will make them alerted, like make them interested more. But if you pass, they won't.
Just to enrich this scene, because Toll and Yoshika have wrestled a lot, as soon as we bump into each other, my hands like unthinkingly go to this wrestling hold I usually like to get on him. And then when they look over, maybe I like am kind of have him in this hold, and then I'm like, ah, and I don't dare take it off until for a few seconds. And yeah,
good. Abby.
29.
Everybody roll your 17 check.
So I'll use my inspiration on this one. Does that just cancel out the disadvantage?
No. You add a d6. So roll a d6 and add that.
But I still
Actually-
have the disadvantage?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Bardic Inspiration is different from Inspiration.
Yeah. Do the Bardic Inspiration, or you can have that and do both.
I think I woke up with day. Just
You
like-
did.
Oh, but that was
Oh,
from
this you could use that too. Yeah.
that was
this is
what
your
I was going
bonus
to
roll.
use.
And you can choose if you want to use it after you roll. Well, if
Yeah,
Sir's
that's
gonna-
right. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and to use regular inspiration would undo disadvantage.
Okay. So I'll just do that then. Here we go. That is a 14. That's not great. But so can I use the Bardic Inspiration, or did that have to be before?
You can use your Bardic Inspiration, and I'll also let you retcon the advantage into it by rolling another die. Your choice. You can use Bardic Inspiration or Inspiration.
Oh, no, he's using his inspiration to undo the disadvantage. So he only rolled one die.
Did you only roll one right now, Toll?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Wow, that was a terrible roll for... Sorry.
You care about this.
Tell me how you really feel. All right.
All right, then.
I'm trying to laugh in a whisper so no ear.
Can Inkatink pick him up? Does Toll weigh more than 210 pounds?
Probably.
Yes. No, Inkatink cannot fly him silently.
No, not fly. Just pick him up. I can pick up 210 pounds. So, but if he weighs more than 210 pounds, I can't pick him up.
So what do I add to the roll? A d6?
A d6. You have 14. Roll a d6 to see if you can get above 17. 50-50.
That's a 5.
Woo!
Hey.
Yes.
Ooh.
You all very slowly continue creeping. You have a feeling that you're looking, it's strange to you now, but no matter how you're moving, they, unmoving, continue to gaze directly at you, and each of you is sure that they are looking you in the eyes.
The haunted house eyes.
That's right. Let's roll our DC 15 stealth check as you're moving away from them.
If someone is stronger than me, they could give what's-his-face a piggyback ride and negate him.
Oh, 17.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that would cause you to get...
That was I still have to roll my disadvantage, though. Let's see what happens. That one was a 3 plus 10, so that's a 13.
Hey, does Diamondback get anything because I just rolled a natural 20?
Roll me another d20 and I'll tell you.
19.
That's a critical with a critical success. Here's what I will let you do.
I mean, with plus 10 and then plus 3 on top of that.
No, I understand. Yeah.
And I got a 33.
Yeah. I think everybody passed it. Jared, what did you roll?
Yeah, I like 20 something.
Matt, Diamondback. Let's see. I was just looking to see if you... Diamondback, here we go. Toll failed his. You got a natural 20, and density of the 20, you got a 19, which is as good as you can get, except for 2 20s. So here's what I'll let you do. Your discretion, it'll cost you a little bit. You can see Toll almost stumbling, trying to be silent. You can cast, you have 2 castings that I see of Misty Step. You can use one of them to disappear and appear next to Toll and stabilize him this time. It'll cost you a casting of Misty Step, which is 3 components. Your choice.
I mean, Diamondback's not super scared of these ghosts, but he can see that everybody else is, and that Toll's really trying hard to stay quiet. And I got those out of the group shared pouch anyway, so yeah, I'll go ahead and do this Misty Step idea. Like split. Ba ba ba.
So, as he sees Diamondback starting to fall, as Diamondback sees Toll starting to fall, to trip, you all notice as you're all silently, slowly creeping, and Diamondback reaches into his pouch. He is on point, crushes some components, and normally the components which would sublimate in a black mist, you see Diamondback sublimate in a black mist and appear right next to Toll, almost a cane or crutch for his friend, under his arm, and holds him silently. Let us roll 13 stealth check.
I think I will. I'll just throw the silent stone on the ground now. It's got to be enough to cover the rest of the way.
Okay, do it.
Or I'll throw it at my foot. So is the ground hard? Or is it?
That might be
And it doesn't really matter where you throw it. If you throw it 10 feet in front of you, you'll be inside the sphere.
Wait, Dwight's
and
saying
then I'll get an
something.
additional 10. Yeah, I'll throw it 10 feet in front of me.
What's Dwight saying?
I'm just saying it might be more useful to throw that at someone who's using magic against us or something.
I have an extra one.
Like in a combat scenario.
Cool, so we did it. So Toll, you throw that, right?
Yes.
You all see Toll throw it. Not all of you know what he has, and you're aghast as you see him throw a pebble 8 feet in front of him. However, as it hits, there's a branch of wood, and it hits it, and immediately all of you are engulfed in dead silence. And Toll, I'm going to put these words in your mouth, Toll. You can retcon that you didn't do this. Toll, to show you what's happening, claps his hands loudly, but there's no sound.
Oh, we should have thrown that to the ghosts. Then they wouldn't have heard anything.
Next time.
All right, I'm just going to...
That would have been a really great insight for you to share with us if we didn't just watch you move your mouth like a madman.
All right. So are y'all going to continue your way?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Hey, Dwight, is that what you were trying to say?
No.
Sort of.
Maybe you should throw it at a... cast a spell at us.
As soon as they get outside of the circle, Inkatink says, "You really should have just thrown that pebble at the statues."
So you make your way, these two figures, as you're staring at them, and they're staring directly into your eyes, and you appear to be staring directly into their souls, suddenly realize that without breaking eye contact, you are no longer looking them in the eye. They have returned to gaze back at each other. And you move on your way. Lambril and Teko are discussing with you, and they explain that Teko explains that this pair that he just knows as the lovers are here and there, sometimes in the woods. And he only knows that they are ghosts and have been there for a long, long time. He says, judging by their apparent clothing, they've been dead for quite a while. He also lets you know, this is just his perspective on it, you can take it for what you will, that you don't want to mess with a ghost. They are, even though they're not the most ferocious of the undead, they can do things to you that are strange and hard for the mind to hold.
Diamondback explains that no, actually, most ghosts are friendly ancestors that want to help you.
And Nino pipes up. Do they still have bodies? Are their bodies undead?
Neither Teko nor Lambril have an answer.
I learned knife fighting from a ghost. It's totally cool.
All right. As you continue on your way, it is around midday. You've been walking for about 5, maybe hours, 5-6 hours. Teko tells you that you're probably about halfway to the lake. He would recommend that, since you have, Yoshka's telling, some kind of magic at your disposal to make a safe place for the night, he would recommend that we press on as far as we can. Lambril has no issue with it, but you can tell that Lambril has grown uncomfortable. This is further than he usually goes from the town. He lets you know that it is not the furthest he's ever gone, but that it's been some years since he's gone this far, this 5 or 6 hours. This is the point at which, when hunting, he would know that if he hasn't caught something now, he needs to turn back to be back inside the town by nightfall. Teko, who is cut from a different kind of cloth, doesn't seem to be as concerned, though he is cautioning you gravely that it is not a time for play. Would you like to just continue? Do you have anything you want to ask about? Do anything besides go on? He estimates you've got 5 or 6 hours left until you get to it.
Now, we will need to rely on your expertise. Morka said the black stone is safest. So if we can find something like that, that will be a good place. We will want a good hour before it gets dangerous to make this magic. It takes some time.
Well, that's hard to say. The black stone is here and there, except at the lake, of course. The lake of the Baisugen. It is all the black stone. There's very much near the lake, but not a whole lot this far away. If you need an hour, our options are to try to make it all the way to the lake, and in the first maybe half hour or hour of darkness, try to create your haven. Or else we could try to find some stone earlier. I think we will encounter more beings, more creatures eventually, but many of them came to the town last night. That's why we have not seen very many today. By the time we get to the lake, those creatures probably did not come all the way to our town.
Now, we know nothing of the Nanaga Baisugen. If we are all huddled by her lake, will she do us some harm if she can speak to us?
What does your...
It will keep her from coming in, but it will not keep us from hearing her.
Sorry, just to say real quickly, but it will keep her from being able to cast spells through it.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
That's one of the effects.
Yeah, okay.
You would be able to hear her, so
right.
I'll let you just to say.
Okay. I probably wouldn't say that then.
Okay. And he says, the Baisugen, look, she, from all that I know and what I have seen myself now, they say she entices travelers, what few there are, into the lake for some purpose, but they never return. They drown or they are gone. I don't know what to do with that. No, of course, no one goes out. There are a few of us hunters from different towns who are out and about, but we all stay well clear of the lake because of this. My daughter did not really understand, and she went. And though I've given her very many warnings, somehow she was enticed. Some promise or some speech. And she began to go into the lake, but before I...
Do you think her evil?
It is hard to know from her form. She is a ghost like we saw, but she stays on the lake. So she draws people in and they never return alive, so what else could I make of it? But I have not encountered her myself.
And is she the reason the bell cannot come this far? Is she the keeper of this lake?
The lake is strange. It is unlike anything else here. It does not look the same. Sorry, I'm waiting for the doors. It does not look the same. Hey, Johanna. Can you tell them not to close and open the doors anymore? Thanks. It does not look the same. And the bell, they also go there, but don't come back. So they don't go there anymore. I don't know why. I find it implausible that she is luring them into the lake. They're fierce and without equal, but they also do not come back.
Good father, where do you and your daughter bunk down when you're out here?
I know a few places, and as I said, the black stone is especially plentiful around the lake. There are places that we can go, small holes that are big enough for me and my daughter, where the worm cannot come. It is good enough, and small holes can be blocked. We can sleep there. My daughter loves to forage in this area, though I normally do not let her near the lake. She loves to forage for the magics that she can find, because others don't come.
Having heard that, Inkatink, his ears perk up, and he starts keeping his eyes peeled for components.
Okay. All right. Do you want to ask anything else, or?
Not that I know of offhand.
Sounds good. So you continue. As you get closer and closer in the direction of the lake, you notice that the ground is at first somewhat moist, and as another hour, 2 hours pass, it's getting not just moist but damp, like almost filled with water. Perhaps because you're going slightly uphill, perhaps it's water from the lake. It's as though you're walking in a kind of almost a bog, not quite that much, but there is a stench from the wetness, and you can tell that it's getting more and more wet as you go. Teco lets you know that this area, it will continue this way, and the hill up to the edge of the lake is quite muddy and difficult to climb, but on the edge, there's plenty of black stone.
Okay, I'm just going to follow him and recommend that we try to make good time.
Okay. Okay, not bad. You continue along. It is now about 3-ish hours after midday. You anticipate that you've got maybe 2 or 3 hours of light left. Let me see how good of a time you make here. I'm going to roll.
Are we going to roll something for whether I find a mouse?
I will let you work it out with them whether you want to take the time for that.
Oh, I don't want to take any time for it.
Okay, then no, you don't find a mouse.
Okay.
As we meander, Neno is getting concerned and puzzled because she's as familiar as she can be with underground waters, and no underground waters make a lake at the top of a hill. This is fishy.
Do you point that out? You mull it over in your heart.
I think I'm mulling my heart.
Okay. What did you say, Bavari, Dwight?
Unintended.
Unlimited, indeed. So, I'm just kidding. I have no idea what you said. I'm sorry, Dwight.
Pun intended. There's a mullet in her heart. She's
mullet. Yeah, got it. Sorry. So, Dwight, your volume's not bad. It just sounds muddy for some reason. I'm not sure why. Just to let you know why I was having trouble. Okay. You continue on, and I just rolled again. Yeah, that's fine. Wow. Okay, great. You make really good time, and you find yourself at about, it's starting to get dusky, and the light is fading away when you notice up ahead, you've had a little bit of hill. You've been going generally uphill, but Teco lets you know that he thinks you're only about 20 minutes away, 15, 20 minutes. And as you actually move forward, the ground now is the soles of your feet are wet from sinking into the soil, and you're not ankle deep. It's not like that deep yet, but it's not easy to move through. Sorry, it's not that it's not easy. It's that you're making squishing sounds. You're squat, 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 squat through the wood, through the muddy, loaminess of the ground here. You do find that you are going up. The hill is surprisingly small when you get to it, compared to what you may have thought in your mind. From their description of it, it was this great, enormous lake, but it's actually not as big as all of that. It's a couple hundred feet, which is not nothing. It's a shape there, and in an irregular shape, the hill kind of is this generally round but somewhat irregular shape. The strange thing about it is that there are, as Teko said, there's a lot of black stone everywhere. On the slope of the hill, there is not any black stone. But when you climb to the top, there seems to be quite a bit of it. There's a ridge that goes all the way around, as far as you can tell, around the lake. And then there's not any for 10 or 15 feet where the edge of the lake is pretty flat. And then there's another ridge of it that goes around. And strangely, there are small huts or some kind of house or something at irregular intervals around the edge of the lake. They're maybe buildings of some kind. It's difficult to tell what they are.
Do people live here? Yoshka asks Tekel.
No. They look like perhaps a hut, but there is no way in that I can tell. They're completely sealed. Sorry, hold on one second.
Pillow talk just got interesting.
Good job.
Could you say again about the ridges around the lake?
Yeah, there's this at the top of the hill. The hill shape it's really wet. The whole side of the hill is, but at the top of the hill it's firm. And the hill kind of makes not sharp, but makes an angle. It goes from hilltop that's wet to high firm, and where it makes that angle is this black stone. It seems to be not like a path, but there is a stone here and there all the way around the edge. If you walk another 10 feet forward towards the edge of the lake, right at the edge of the lake is another one of those. Why? Who knows? But the ground between them is somewhat firm. It's drier, not dry. And this makes up the sort of edge around the lake.
Okay, as we're going on, Yoshka has a special eye out for, not that he's going to stop and look at him, but he's making note of any writing on the stones, and especially that glyph that Morka said she saw around the lake, that we saw in our dream.
You actually, in the distance, though as night is falling, you start to see faintly, not in the center, but a little further, a little off center of the middle of the lake. You see what appears to be a faint glowing. And as the night falls further and Teko is looking for a good spot for the black stone for the ground, the night falls a little further and it looks like maybe it's the same kind of white stone that you saw in Saracon. You are not clearly able to make out any distinct markings or anything, but there's floating apparently above the surface of the lake, a couple 100 feet away, is a dim, glowing whiteness, like it's reminiscent of the stone in Saracon. Now, as you're there, Teko finds exactly what he's looking for. He finds a bit of ground there. Not ground, sorry, black stone. It's a shape of stone where it seems to jut out from the edge of the hill. Not inside the lake. It's like a small platform of stone almost that the lake, lake comes up to, and it's like in the shape of it. It's semicircular-ish, 10, 15 feet, and it's just a disc. Now, as you do this, you hear far above the canopy over the lake, and the trees around, there's an opening in the canopy because this is a bigger lake than you're used to seeing, but there is this swirling sound, and you hear a kind of groaning and clattering in the above. Everybody roll me a DC 16 perception check. Toll do it with advantage, and who else was awake with you? Talad. So don't worry about that. Toll, roll that with advantage. DC 16 perception.
I got a 17.
Only an 8 for me.
Okay.
10 for Toll.
Inkatink.
Yep.
You heard this sound, this same kind of clattering, shaking. What'd you get? 21. You heard this sound, and you exchange a glance with who definitely recognizes it as well. It was during the long night outside of Miradau. You definitely heard this sound above the trees. Once you see them exchange that glance and have a word about it told, you remember it from the night before. This was the sound above, the sort of clicking and clattering that was happening in the treetops. As you're readying yourselves and aware that there's something up there, you're on this platform, and you all need to gather onto the platform. Yoshka, are you going to begin using your...
Well, assuming I'll say this is not safe by itself, right? I can use this spell 2 times. Should we use it tonight?
So
otherwise, we have danger here. Yes.
Yeah, we're talking. Things are starting. People are starting to talk, but Inkatink would probably react right away. Inkatink casts Fly and flies away from the group and casts, I think, Firebolt into the direction of the sound and starts leading the thing away from the party because he knows that they don't have cover set up yet.
And Inkatink, if you're not inside this hut area when they cast it, you can't get in.
How long does it take to cast? Have we talked about that along the way?
It'll take about an hour, and you've got to be there.
Yeah. Inkatink flies away and casts Firebolt.
All right.
Oh.
Nothing. Oh, you cast it and don't see anything.
If he starts to fly away, I am going to resist and say, "No, you will die. Come back. What are you doing?"
I think Inkatink looks at him and says, "Better bring the herd in with one short than lose the whole herd out in the forest." And he kind of winks at him and points a finger, and he flies off.
Diamondback, Roll me an Arcana.
No, wait. We need your help. No one else can make potions.
check. 15.
I'm trying to be persuasive.
Roll a persuasion check.
Do you want to do it that way? Or do you want to just decide, Josh?
Yeah, I mean, he's flying away for 5 minutes. So you see him show up 10 minutes later, Inkatink shows up. He spends about 5 minutes trying to lead this thing away. And then he, shoots off in some random direction, flies up over the canopy, and tries to make a beeline back to where they are.
To your best of your ability to tell, Inkatink, the thing did not follow you. When you get back, you find that they have continued hearing the sound while you were gone, swirling and circling somewhere overhead and off to the side, a little further away, a little less. Diamondback, what was your Arcana check?
15, and Diamondback goes up to Inkatink when he gets back and gives him a back of the hand on his beak. Whap! My friends have sacrificed themselves that way.
Diamondback.
And they were all Josh.
All right.
And they were all Josh! Except for one that was Jacob.
Splint, yeah. As this is happening, okay, we're going to stop in just a second for time, but as this is happening, Diamondback, you get a little uncomfortable feeling in the way that the water, that's generally still, but it's lapping and, waving and such. And you see some of the water splash up unexpectedly onto the edge of the platform that you're on. This platform is about maybe a dozen feet, 15 feet diameter, big enough that y'all can do your thing on it and be in a nice little dome on top of it. But the water splashes up and it just doesn't sit right with you. You're watching it. Nobody else is. They seem to be getting ready. Yoshka is almost ready to do his, to cast the magic that he's casting. Diamondback, in a moment, you see this water shimmer and start to take form, and a word from your memory. Aboleth. 4 watery figures form and take form here in front of you. The others have not noticed yet, but these are fierce, magic water-looking creatures. What do you do?
Diamondback, they come up out of the water.
They do. And they're standing on your platform now.
Diamondback shouts, "Flee, flee," and starts yelling, "Everybody run, get away from these things. Follow me."
Everybody roll initiative. Tell me what you got.
23.
11 for Toll.
Okay, 23, 14, 11.
19.
Belvari?
5.
5, okay. One of these creatures, I rolled for Teco and Lambrel. One of these creatures seems to be finding its shape still, but the other two are able to move before any of you are able to. These creatures, you feel a kind of probing at your minds, as though they are seeking to learn about you. One of these creatures, has a great tail and it whips around, focusing straight at Yoshka. As it does so, an unthinkably large creature plummets straight down from above. This thing is just a fury of motion and muscle. It makes a clattering and deafening roar. And in a moment, all three of the aboleth are completely destroyed. The creature winds slowly around, and you are completely encircled by its body. As it makes this strange clattering sound along the length of its body, you can tell that almost like Toll's armor, it's kind of clattering and shaking all over its body, giant green scales. And you realize this creature appears to be some very old dragon. You are completely encircled by its body, and its large head swings slowly until it faces directly towards you. And you notice with a start another very small creature, a red one of the same, is sitting on its body. The creature swings its head close to you and looks at you, and you can see in its face covered just these fuzzy green scales covering it. This, you can tell, is a very old dragon. That's where we're going to end this episode. We will pick up next time, finding out what is happening here.
That's how we die.
Thank you for listening. I really appreciate it. We have, just for our listeners, we have put a lot of effort into being entertaining for each other, and me for them, and hopefully for you all as well. So thanks a lot, and have a great week. We will be back with a new episode shortly. Good night.